Let's start. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahno Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahi Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anabhisid Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, welcome everyone. So we are starting this ninth class on the Nyaya Sutras. So we have seen up till the 22nd sutra, 23rd we started in the next class, in the last class. So just we'll read this out. Saman anek dharma upapatte hai vipratipatti hi उपलब्धि अनुपलब्धि hi व्यवस्था च विशेष अपेक्षो विमर्शः संशय. So we were discussing संशय or doubt. संशय, which is one of the most important concepts in Nyaya. So Nyaya, as we know, we have seen so far, we are discussing basically the 16 categories. So within those 16 categories, the second category, which is Prameya, the objects to be known. So Prameya is the objects to be known. So there we have enlisted all the objects of the world, Indriya, Atma, and so on. So you might treat it as subject or object, but whichever way, even if you are taking the strictly Vedantic definition. But understand from here that what is the beauty of Nyaya here. We have seen that the 16 categories have been mentioned so far. Then we have mentioned the objects to be known. Then afterwards, from here on, after the 23rd verse and all, 23rd sutra, what we are seeing is that the system of logic is being taught. System of logic is being taught in a clearly uncolored way. There is no way that Nyaya is going to attempt explaining all the 16 tattvas. It leaves that to the other shastras, right? So there basically Nyaya will give us the process. Nyaya will give us the method by which we have to understand these objects, but that same process is carried forward by the other shastras. So if we are seeing Vaisheshik, it is examining the objects at the micro level. Then we have Sankhya, it is inspecting and analyzing the objects at the macro level. Then we have Yoga, which is exploring the mind, the vrittis, the thoughts. And then next on we have Vedanta, and we have Purmimansa. So the karma theory, the action part, that is being examined by Purmimansa. And finally, Mimamsa Vedanta is examining the soul and its relationship to the world, Atma and Atma Vivek, right? So in this way, we should say that these six sciences or these six darshan shastras, they are not competing philosophies. So those philosophies basically they complement each other. If one is teaching one part of how to approach the reality or understand the reality, other shastra is telling another method. Right? So right now we've seen in the few from the other sutras we have done before. We have examined Shabdaha, we have examined the Ichha, Dvesh, Manaha, then we have seen all the 5 elements and so on. So all these have just been enumerated. From here on, what happens is that these elements, they will be examined in small detail, just as an example. But basically, we are going to understand the process of logic. We are going to understand the process of logic. So this system of logic is going to help us know that whenever we are examining any object, what are the rules that we have to follow, and then secondly, what are the pitfalls that will come, what we call the logical fallacies, right? So the logical fallacies are many in number. Some say there are 24. That is not true actually. The logical fallacies, they come under different categories. So if you are looking at the initial first sutra, if you see the first sutra again, then we will see there are 16 categories mentioned. So out of these, if we look out towards the end, then if you look towards the एकदम last part of it all, then we will see that we have this nigra sthan, jati, chal, hetva all of these categories have other subcategories of logical fallacies. So I'm not going into that in detail right now. We will examine that later on. But when we go there, we will see that these are the pitfalls that come in the way of any logical examination. जब भी हम किसी चीज़ को जानने की कोशिश कर रहे होते हैं, whenever we are trying to know something, then while knowing that something, we follow a very scientific process. That scientific process has to eliminate all doubt, right? So elimination of doubt, being very clear about the subject that you want to know, is the main process of Nyaya, right? So when we are looking at Nyaya, then this 23rd verse which we are looking into is very important. I will not go into too much detail here, because this will again be covered into the third part, or rather the second chapter, first part. Each chapter has if there are 5 chapters, each chapter has 2 parts. So if you are looking at, this is the first chapter, first part, then we have first chapter, second part. Then in the second chapter, first part, this sanshaya or doubt will be examined in more detail. But if you can just understand the different aspects. So what is being said here? Just let us look at it again. Saman anek dharma upapattehe viprattipattihi upalabdhi anupalabdhi व्यवस्था व्यवस्था च विशेष अपेक्षो विमर्शः संशय. So संशय is the last word. If you look at it, संशय is the last word. संशय is doubt. So our main purpose of any study should be the elimination of doubt. हमें अपने उसके बारे में कोई भी संशय है, कोई भी हमारे मन में उसके बारे में गलत धारणा है, वो हमें हटानी. We have to remove all wrong notions about any subject that we are studying, right? So these wrong notions, we have to go through the process of logic. And in this way we are able to understand that why logic is important, because once we understand the object to be known in a proper manner, then our behavior, our actions, everything becomes more refined, more correct, right? In this way we are able to go into the proper approach for any subject. So in Indian philosophy and in all other sciences, in all other approaches, there is always a method that is used so that any error has to be removed. There is a system of inbuilt checks and balances. Inbuilt checks and balances. Even if you look at Vedic maths, so in Vedic maths, if you are doing a calculation, then during that calculation, within that system, there is built a system that will check whether at this stage your calculation is correct so far. So in this way you are able to find out that if you are not going the wrong path, because once you make a mistake at a certain point, then there are 100 paths where you can go to the wrong side, and then when you have gone too far, you will have to come back and retrace your steps, and you'll have a long journey of getting back to the right place, right? So in this way our systems, they develop a scientific technique whereby we are able to understand these whatever we call diversions, and we should not move in the wrong way. So what is a diversion, a sanshaya, what is a doubt? Basically 2 paths or 2 conclusions that come to us. Out of that we have to correct the first one, right? If you have seen, maybe some of you have heard about some underground caves. There are so many paths underground, so if you go there you will get lost. But if you know where to go, somewhere you see there are 2 paths and you take the left one, and let us say it is the correct path, the left one is the right one. So then you go there and you will reach your destination. But if you go to the other path on the right side, then it might diverge into so many other canals, another caves and passages. It will take you to the wrong place entirely, right? So in this way, knowing where to check and correct our path is the method of Nyaya. It is the method of all scientific inquiry. You have to be careful where you are going. So how do we examine that? Saman anek dharmah upapatti. So what do we see in any two objects? We have to see what are the saman dharmah, what are the similar properties. एक जैसा जो उनमें गुण है, similar properties are there in any two objects. Saman dharmah. And we have to see anek dharma, we have to see conflicting properties. I'll come to this with an example. Saman anek dharma upapatti hai. These common characters and different characters, these we have to analyze. Then vipratipatti, some wrong knowledge, we have some wrong knowledge about some object. Then upalabdhi, we something that we have, that is attained by us. Anupalabdhi, something that is not visible to us. So in this upalabdhi anupalabdhi व्यवस्था च विशेष अपेक्षो विमर्श संशय. So in the case of any object that is available to us, in the case of any similarly different object that is not available to us, we have certain inconclusive evidence. Then we are not able to say that this knowledge is correct, or if it is not the right one for us, right? So we have to filter, we have to learn to filter our knowledge. So like saman anek dharma. So let us say we are looking at one thing I like to clarify right from the start. In sanshay or doubt, the main characteristic is that we don't have a clear perception of the object. एकदम clear नहीं है. So just like you're looking at an object like that is not in full light and that is not in full dark, but it is in partial light. So in partial light, what will happen? You might cognize the object as erroneous. Like the common example we use in Vedanta, snake on rope. So if there is a rope that is of the shape of the snake, then in partial light we will see it as a snake. But if there is full light, we will never see it as a snake. We will see it as a, and if there is full darkness, then again it will also be appearing snake. Then there will be no cognition. You will not be able to see if the object is there or not, right? So in this way, that doubt position can come only in partial light, right? So in this way, if we are looking at saman dharma, right? So if we are looking at a rope and a snake, then what are the saman dharma? What is the difference? That the snake will have what we call a hood, that the snake will have certain scales. All these details are not visible in that time. So that using this characteristic of saman and anek dharma, the common and different properties, that is the cause of sanshaya or doubt. That when common properties are visible, but the differentiating properties, different properties, they are not visible. So there it comes into the category of doubt, right? So let's take another example, another very common example. So where a tree stump, there is a tree, and it is mistaken for a person. So Purusha Stambha Bhram, it is called, right? So in this way, Purusha Sthanu also it is called in some places. So Sthanu, non-moving object, so that is used for tree also. So what happens is, there also in semi-darkness, you see a tall pillar or column, and it appears to you like a person, right? Because what happens there, the common property that a human being also resembles something like a trunk. But what is the different properties? A tree will have roots going downside, it will have branches going upwards. So those are not available in the darkness. Or it might be a tree that is cut down, so it will appear similar. So there the human category, the human characteristics, that of the arm, his head, his legs, that separation is not visible. So due to that partial cognition, due to the partial knowledge or incomplete knowledge, we mistake one object from another. So that is again sanshaya. Then again, upalabdhi and anupalabdhi. So in upalabdhi, anupalabdhi also something that is available and something that is not available. Let us take a simple common example. Like if there is a nail that I have hammered into a piece of wood, right? And let's say there are 4 nails or 10 nails or whatever quantity. So let us say they are all of different sizes. So after they have been hammered into the wood, I cannot say which nail is how long, right? Even though the object is upalabdha, it is available there, still we will not be able to tell, right? And so in this way, many objects that we see, we around us, we know that they are there, their full characteristics, qualities, or their full structure. So that is the reason that upalabdhi also can cause some kind of error. Then again, anupalabdhi. If you are looking at anupalabdhi, then anupalabdhi also something is not available. So an example for that is something that is projected in the form project holograms of people, full people. We can even see a movie where people are moving, where actually people are not moving. But in earlier times, a very common example was that of mirage water. So in mirage water, what is there? Water is there, water is seen, but even if it's up, if it is not visible, it is visible, but it is still not there. So the person, the thirsty person, he keeps moving towards that point till if when he reaches there, he finds there is actually no water. So there anupalabdhi is there. The object is not available. Anupalabdhi is there, but due to the error, we are not able to tell whether that anupalabdhi is right or not, whether that object is available or not. If it being available, it appears non-available. The same thing you can say for upalabdhi also. Like if that water is there in a river and and it is dark outside or semi-dark, so you can't tell that water is there or not, right? So in all of these cases, what happens is dharma, anek dharma, vipratipatti, upalabdhi, anupalabdhi, all these states, we are able to see that the different objects that we cognize, different objects that we know, the different objects that we obtain knowledge of their existence or their non-existence, those different objects we are able to know only partially. And that partial knowledge always causes error. That error is called Sanshaya, right? So this we will see in more detail in the second chapter. But right now, what we have to see, the different categories of Sanshaya that are given there. So we have seen the major categories here, but that all these points are analyzed there in more detail. Why these points are correct and why there might not be other points that is. So that is the 23rd sutra. So now we just move on to the next sutra, the 24th sutra. I hope those who are on Clubhouse, they have some available text about this. It is available online. You can check anywhere. You can search for Nyaya Sutras. You will get that. So we are into the 23rd one. So now we are moving on to the 24th one. A very simple one. Yam artham adhikritya pravartate tat prayojanam. Prayojan. So we of the different categories, the 16 categories that we saw in that initial part, we saw one that is one of them is prayojanam, the means, the what is the purpose of any activity that we have to do, what is the purpose, prayojanam. So that prayojanam we have to go into why do we do something, right? Why do we eat a particular food? Why do we engage in certain kind of sports? Why do we do like a certain person? Or why do we sit and work hard for that? That is a purpose in life. Yeah, artha, the artha whatever purpose, whatever of entity or object we want to attain, that is yamartam adhikritya, that entity we have to obtain. So what activities we do for that? Pravartate, whatever actions we do to attain that object, that is called pravritti. So pravritti is any action or activity we do to obtain the objects of our desire. So very simple one. This one does not have many details, and basically what we are seeing here is example is also given. So a man collects fuel for the purpose of cooking his food. So whenever we need to eat something, we need to eat some food, then we have to cook it properly so that it will digest or assimilate easily into our system. So for that we have to cook it, right? We need fire and we need some fuel. So we go to the jungle. In those times, whatever was the trend, that they used to cut the trees and used to whatever activity we take to attain the purpose, attain the object of our desire, that is called prayojana. Okay. So next we move on to the 25th also. This one we have seen so far. So 24th we have seen. So 25th. This one is looking at the next one of the 16. What is start? लौकिक परीक्षकाणां यस्मिन् अर्थे बुद्धि साम्यम सदृष्टान्तः. So drishtanta, what is drishtanta? Drishtanta basically an example or an illustration of any concept. So if you are teaching some concept, you need to show an example, right? So if you are if saying like the most common example that used in Nyaya Sutras is where there is fire, right? If there is smoke, there is fire. So let us say that example is being used for some smoke that is very far off. So there the example is of the smoke on a mountain. So there you can't see the fire, right? You're not seeing the fire. But what are you seeing? You are only looking at the smoke coming out of the mountain, but the fire is not. So there you that the smoke is there, so fire must be there. And for that, what is the drishtanta given? Yatha pakshalayam. Yatha pakshalayam. So what does it say? That according to the description, or according to our experience in the kitchen, where whenever we cook food, we burn fire, we see smoke and fire coexist. So in this way, we are able to conclude that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So that drishtanta, there is the fire in the kitchen. Where there is fire in the kitchen, we can see that smoke is being produced. So that is a drishtanta. So what are the characteristics of the drishtanta? Lokik parikshakaanam yasmin arthe buddhi samyam. Right? So lokik is a person, a common person, someone who is believes only in the testimony of his direct experience, whatever he has seen. And what is a parikshakanam? Parikshak, an examiner, someone who learns more about things through logic, through scientific inquiry. So a lot of things that we see with our eyes, they might not be true or they might be true, but when we go and we do a more thorough examination, then we learn that some of the things might be actually a bit different from what we perceive. They might be different, right? So common example is that of the sun. Sun appears to move around the earth. We see it rise in the east and set in the west. But what will a parikshakanam do? What will be a parikshak do? What will an intelligent person do? He will examine the shadow, he will examine the movement of the shadows, and then he is able to conclude that actually it is the earth that is moving. Then there are other so all of these from all of these the earth and the things are matter of our experience. We can't see that happening. So for the difference between a lokik and a parikshak is a lokik, a common person, he sees those things only as a matter of direct experience, and the parikshaka, he will see things through the eye of logic. That is a superior eye, that is a higher eye. That eye of logic is able to help us to see things beyond what are normally visible to us in our ordinary state of mind, ordinary state of experience. Give us a lot of knowledge, but sometimes the sense organs can also lie. Sometimes the sense organs can give us some kind of wrong perception. So for that, the pariksha, the person of knowledge, he will examine everything clearly before accepting anything as a fact. For so many years, even in the West, the people believed this thing, that the earth is the center of the universe, and people were even burnt at the stake for even daring to suggest that something different might be there. Okay, so there is one person, Batuta Bond, is asking, is Indian logic distinct from the Greeks? So yes, of course, Greeks have borrowed some elements from our logic also, because our logic is much more older. Uh, so Indian logic has a lot of different elements, and then also he is asking, what does sense data have to do with logic? So sense data is something that gives us an input. That input is analyzed according to the mind, and then the mind forms a conclusion. But sometimes, as I say, sense data can be false also. So that sense data has to be examined by the eye of logic, which we are looking at in this sutra also, in this 25th sutra. So लौकिक परीक्षा का नाम यस्मिन अर्थे बुद्धि साम्यम. So in that, in the condition where both agree, a लौकिक person and a परीक्षक person both have to agree that this is this example clearly illustrates their theory. So when a person is saying that this is this is something that this is a theory, or this is something I'm telling you, then the other person needs an example. He needs an example in the way in which he can understand these things, right? So in this way, that person is able to understand his theory, right? So let's take a simple example. Let's take a very simple example. If some person says mathematics, you're teaching some mathematics, you're teaching a principle of addition. So you're saying 4 plus 5 is 9, right? So if he says something, 4 plus 5 is 9, so the common person, he will not accept unless he has himself studied that, right? It is a simple principle, but still, what will he do? He will bring four objects of one kind, say four apples. Then he will bring another five apples, and then he will mix them up, and then he will ask you to count all of them. So when you count all of them, you will find there are nine apples, right? So simple. It's a simple process. So in this, what is the drishtanta? The drishtanta, or the example, is the one where he actually brings physical objects, and then you teach an abstract principle, an abstract mathematical principle, that is the addition of numbers. So for teaching the addition of numbers, you can write that down on a board also. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. But to actually demonstrate that, you have to bring a physical example, so that any common person, any child, right? If you're teaching a small child of 4 or 5 years, you have to demonstrate to him, right? So in this way, when you demonstrate, then that child will be able to satisfy his curiosity, right? So this curiosity has to be satisfied through what is the common thing we call drishtanta, a common example. So this common example is the one that will help establish the truth of any theorem, a truth of any theorem. So लौकिक परीक्षा का नाम यस्मिन अर्थे बुद्धि साम्य. Buddhi samyam says that both of them agree. Their intellect, their buddhi agrees. They have a common viewpoint. They have a common meeting point. So that is called drishtanta only. That example where any person he gives it to any person gives to another common person, he will accept readily. So basically, if we can add one more feature to drishtanta, it has to be sense perceptible. It has to be an object of our senses. हमें दिखना चाहिए, हमें feel होना चाहिए. We should be able to see that. We should be able to feel that. So whatever our senses can cognize, through that we can explain a principle that our senses cannot cognize. It may be a mental principle. It may be a principle about objects that are not immediately visible to us, like we saw in the case of smoke and fire, and so on. So all these are the categories of drishtanta. So Now out of this drishtantah we have different categories, right? So in drishtantah there are different categories. So what are these different categories? We'll just have to look into that. So we'll just read the next sutra. We finished the 25th one. So what is the 26th sutra saying? The 26th sutra is saying Tantra Adhikaran Abhyupagam Sanstiti Siddhanta. So what is the Siddhanta? This different whenever we have any drishtanta, any example, it is trying to establish a theorem, a proposition. So that proposition is called siddhanta. That siddhanta is the thing that is being established through the drishtanta. So that siddhanta, if you have to establish, then an established tenet or an established what we call law. So that law, for it to be established, we have to establish through a system of examples or tests and verification. So that the parts that are there of this, uh, they are called Tantra Adhikaran Abhyupagama Sanstiti. So Tantra Adhikaran. So whatever is proved, Tantra is basically Shastric knowledge, knowledge of the Shastras, right? So this Shastric knowledge uh, is Abhyupagama Sanstiti Siddhanta. If it is proved in such a way that the knowledge becomes certain, Badha Rahit, without any doubt, Abhyupagama Sanstiti, it is established without doubt. So if any knowledge that is given to you, it is established in your mind without any doubt, that is called Siddhanta, right? So that Siddhanta has to be established in our mind. Yeah, by proofs, you are able to prove it, right? So if you are given something like diameter of a circle is in the ratio of pi to the radius, right? So when you are looking at that proposition, then initially you won't be able to believe it, right? But mathematically also you can prove that. Then you can also prove it through measurement also. So both ways that theorem you can prove, but for a proper mathematical proof, you will have to give lots of examples so that finally you are able to establish that, right? So in this way, this class has eight and a half minutes, so we'll rejoin after that. George, you can rejoin, so we'll continue till then. So Tantra Adhikaran Abhyupagam Sanstiti Siddhanta. So when we are looking at any Siddhanta or any established tenet in logic, then for that we have to give proofs, certain proofs, and with that proofs we are able to prove that Siddhanta, right? So there are four categories of this Siddhanta, or these things that have to be proved, the theorems or whatever, right? So this we'll just have a look in at the next sutra. So this sutra, if I hope it is clear, is simple, that anything that is established by with clear proofs is called a siddhanta. So what are the different kinds of siddhanta? Sarvatantra, Pratitantra, Adhikaran, Apyubagama Sanstiti, अर्थांतर भावार्थ. So tantra adhikaran, sarvatantra, no, I think so. I'm sorry, I think we finished 26th, na?
27. We are going on 27.
27.
Such a good.
So sarvatantra, pratitantra, adhikaran, and abhyupagama. So these are the four kinds of siddhanta. Okay, so basically we are looking at four different kinds of theorems or laws, four different kinds of laws that are expressed in different textbooks or shastras, or different philosophical systems. So every philosophical system, they have different tenets or laws, which then they examine and prove by their logic. And then these logic or these theorems, they are different in different books. So some theorems will be common in all books. Some theorems are there in one book and it is assumed correct in the other book. Uski explanation is, its explanation is not given. Then there are some theorems that are there only in the second book only, but not in the first book. They are different. So all of these are categories. So what are these? You just have a look. So what is a Sarvatantra Siddhanta? So what is Sarvatantra is some kind of theorem that is there in all the different kinds of shastras. Huh. So in any kind of shastra, if there is some kind of theorem that is accepted by all, right? So like let us say we are looking at the Gyanendriyas, the five Gyanendriyas. So these five Gyanendriyas, they are enumerated in Nyaya and Vaisheshik. They're there. So in Nyaya and Vaisheshik, they will be Sarvatantra. In these two, they are both there, right? Then if you look at these Gyanendriyas and even Karmendriyas, they are not specifically mentioned in the other Darshan Shastras. They're not specifically mentioned or discussed. So there it will be Pratitantra, that they are there, but they are accepted. We accept that they are there, but their description is not given. So that description is left to Nyaya and Vaisheshik. So from here we will copy, right? They will copy. And then you have Abhyupagamaha. So Abhyupagamaha is there, and sorry, Adhikaran also. So Adhikaran is like what we call in English a corollary, right? It's a corollary. So if we are proving something, then we are able to prove the other one also as a corollary, right? So let us say like in Vedanta we prove that the Atma is separate from the Gyanendriyas, Karmendriyas, and so on. We see the different 11 there. We saw that three Sharirams, Atma is separate from them. Then the five Koshas, Atma is separate from them. And then the three states, the Atma is separate from them. So all of these, it is proved that Atma is separate from them. So there what happens is Atma being the source of all knowledge, right? So we can therefore prove that all knowledge comes only through the Atma. Because of Atma, everything is being known, right? Then what is the corollary? The corollary is that in the all the other sense organs or this Gyanendriya, they have only limited amount of knowledge. They eyes can only see, eyes cannot smell. Ears can only hear, they cannot touch or they cannot feel. So in this way, every Gyanendriya has a specific function. Their functions do not cross connect. So that is derived from once we prove that the Atma is the knower only. Right? So in this way, in proving one thing, we are able to prove other things also. So there are a lot of examples, we can look at them. Even in modern science also, we can see a lot of things there that are proved. So if we prove one thing, the other is also proved. So that is basically Adhikaran Siddhanta. Then the fourth one is Abhyupagama Siddhanta. So what is Abhyupagama Siddhanta? In that here we actually assume that something is correct, and then we try to prove something else, and then that something else is proved, then the first thing is proved. Like as I said in a common example, we say that the sun is uh, stationary or it is moving in relation to other stars, but the earth is moving around the sun, right? So we don't know from experience, we can't say, but we say let us assume that it is the earth that is going around the earth. So what will happen if earth is going around the sun? Then that means the earth will be facing the sun at different times of the year with time. Then that means different seasons will come. So if different seasons will come, that means it is possible that the earth. So initially we assume something is true, then we prove that something is.
Uh,
So
but that thing that was assumed is correct.
yeah, that will. So basically, it is a theorem and then hence proof, right? So
Hence true.
in this way, that is called the Abhyupagama Siddhanta. Something that we assume that is true, and then we later go on to prove it. Sometimes it is very interesting. that we take the opposite thing. We say the opposite. We say, okay, the sun is stationary, the earth is stationary. Then we say, but it cannot explain all these other things, the change of seasons, even day, night, and so on. So when we assume that, then we can't prove those things. Then that means that was wrong. That means what is right? That means it is the earth that is moving, huh? Right? Sun is not moving. So in this way also we are able to. So that is called the reverse proof. Reverse proof. We assume the reverse of what is true and then try to prove the right one. Right? So time is up. George, I think we'll disconnect and then we'll reconnect. So you please rejoin. We are resuming now, and so now what we have seen that we are looking at the different siddhanta. Right? So just go through them once again. We'll just look at the next sutra. So actually I have explained to you the different siddhantas, but in this 27 sutra, the siddhantas, the different theorems or different laws, they are mentioned, but they are explained in the coming sutras. So just we'll read through that also. Sarva tantra viruddha तंत्रे अधिकृतो अर्थ सर्वतंत्र सिद्धांत. So what is a सर्वतंत्र सिद्धांत? Something that is not opposed by any school, and it is claimed by at least one school. Right? So that is sarvtantra siddhanta. So if one school is assuming that something is true, some kind of law is there or some kind of theorem is there which is correct, then others also, when they keep on discussing by using the conclusion that is made by that siddhanta, then that means they assume that it is correct. Right? So if some school will say that there are five elements, other will go on proving that five elements have so and so properties. So there it means they are accepting that there are five elements. They will not seek to prove that there are five elements. Right? But actually, if you look at the fifth element, you have to prove it. You have to prove it. Which is the fifth element? Sound. Right? Or rather, if I should say the artha, fifth sense object. Right? So fifth element is of course akasha. So akasha you have to prove, sound you have to prove. So how do you prove akasha? Some will say akasha is absence of everything. Right? But when we look at the two characteristics of akasha, avakasha, atma, akasha, something that provides accommodation. So something must be there that is providing. Where is the air moving? There must be something that is providing accommodation to that. Right? So we are able to do that. And then we saw in Vedanta also, we saw a logic that is called Parisheshatnyaya. We saw that Parisheshatnyaya. So in Parisheshatnyaya, what is there? We see that there are five sense objects. Each of the sense objects are connected with one element. Right? So when we look at Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. So Gandha, smell, is connected with the Prithvi Tattva. Uh, then Sparsha is connected with Vayu Tattva. Then Roop is connected with Agni Tattva. Then Rasa is connected with the Jal Tattva. But then finally there is Shabda. So Shabda must be connected with some element. So by the law of remainders, Parishishat Nyaya, I explained that earlier also, using the concept of like 5 apples are kept on a table, and then 5 people are asked to take one each. You see 4 of them taking one each and go out, but the fifth one you don't see, and when you go into the room the fifth apple is also gone. So you assume that the fifth person took the apple. So in this way we are able to prove that this kind of uh, uh, the kind of proof that we are looking at is provided by one shastra. In the others they will assume simply that there are 5 elements, they will not seek to prove them. So that is the way we call this sarvatantra siddhanta, something that is accepted by all schools. Then we are looking at the saman tantra par tantra asiddha, Saman Tatra Asiddha, Paratantra Asiddha, Pratitantra. So something peculiar to some school, a dogma that is peculiar to some school, is a tenet which is accepted by similar schools but rejected by opposite schools. Right? So something that is accepted by one school, it is not accepted by the other. So they will have some kind of disparity, and they will try to prove their own disparity, right? But usually if you're looking at the darshan shastras, then basically both, they don't disagree, they are only talking about different options, right? So uh, here if you can see, it is written, a thing cannot come into existence out of nothing. This is a peculiar dogma of the Sankhyas. Eternity of sound is peculiar dogma of the Mimamsakas. So if we understand this, what happens is, we say, is sound eternal or is it not? So in some schools they will say sound is eternal, because after production, even if it goes on diminishing, it is not destroyed, it is completely it is gone into unmanifest state, right? So just like the law of conservation of energy, there is also the law of this sound is also energy. So it is not going out, it is not completely destroyed, it is becoming unmanifest, right? But some others say that something, if something is produced, then it will also finish, and it will end, right? जब भी किसी चीज की उत्पत्ति होती है उसका विनाश भी होता है, that is a common law. So according to them, sound is produced by the vibration of the vocal cords, vibration of the vocal cords, right? So when that is said, that means that if it is produced, then it will end also. So that means after some time it will go into existence. So basically, but in the end, how is it resolved? In the end, it is resolved in the way that even if the vocal cords are doing something, if they are expressing some sound, that sound must already have been there. So basically, the vocal cords are not creating the sound; they are amplifying the sound. They are amplifying the sound, and then later that sound gets de-amplified, right? So that is what is being said. The shabda is expressed. There are different schools there. So the one is called Sfotvada. So I'll not go into details. Sfotvada basically proves that this sound is eternal, right? So this saman tantra, paratantra asiddha, pratitantra siddhanta, something that is proved by one school but it is rejected by another school. Then the 30th, yet siddhi anya prakaran siddhi sa adhikaran siddhanta. So adhikaran siddhanta, we saw that something which is accepted, as a hypothetical dogma is a tenet which is if accepted leads to the acceptance of another tenet. So basically, as I said, it is what is called a corollary, right? Adhikaran siddhanta is a corollary in which what happens is, you accept something as true, then from that something else is true, something else is true. So in this way, from one proof you are able to get multiple proofs, maybe one more, maybe two more, maybe so many more. So proving one thing, it can you can see that it proves other things, right? So like we said, if you prove that the soul is separate from the sense organs, etc., etc., then you can prove that soul cognizes everything, but the different objects, they cognize different sense organs, they cognize one object only. and then the final Abhyupagama Siddhanta है. Aparikshit Abhyupagama Abhyupagamat विशेष परीक्षणम अभ्युपगम सिद्धांत. What is an अभ्युपगम सिद्धांत? And it is what is called an implied dogma. An implied dogma is a tenet which is not explicitly declared as such, but which follows from the examination of particulars concerning it. So abhyupagama siddhanta, something that we assume to be true, we do not know if it is true or not, and then we examine the conditions and then finally found that the conditions support this conclusion, and in this way we are able to see that it is true, right? So if we look at a mathematical theorem,
Like you said,
as true, right? So if we say 1 plus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 16 plus 1 by 24 and so on, it is less than 2. Infinite series. So infinite number of normally we think that infinite numbers when added together it will reach infinity. But here we are not talking about whole numbers. We are talking about fractions. So when we examine, we do the mathematical proof for that, we will find it is true. This series it is less than 2. Right? So in this way we are able to conclude that for every number that is added, the next one will not take the total to closer to 2. It will take it just under 2. Right? So in this way, by examination, and of course there is other proof also. So I'm not going to maths now, otherwise this will become a maths class. So basically, through this method, we are able to see that Abhyupagama Siddhanta, we think logically that something like this must be true. So we have to prove it. And then to prove it, we use different kinds of examples. Through those examples, we find that yes, it supports. Then we accept. Right? So, but of course, sometimes it has happened that some examples showed that it was true, and then another example came. We prove
it's wrong.
it's wrong. So that is why we need a more rigorous system of proof, right? So that rigorous system of proof is we will see later on in Nyaya also. What does that rigorous system of proof say? That if you prove that A is equal to B, then B is equal to C, then A is equal to C, right? So in this way we prove three entities, and it depended on each other. So then we can say that if you keep on adding any other entity, it will be different. It will be the same only. It will not change. Same only. So in this way also we can prove. So that is another way. So we use that same technique in maths also. So in this way, when we are looking at this abhyupagama siddhanta, this we have to prove through examples and through logical reasoning. So in this manner, we are able to understand all the four kinds of siddhanta, the four methods of proof, right? So I think we'll wind up the class for today for now. Anything you want to ask, any doubts that you would have had, George, anything you want to ask?
Nothing in particular, because I think this one was very straightforward. But
Yeah, it is basically simple stuff. Later as we go on, then we'll go into more details about how these are correct, right? So that we'll look into later on. Right now we've reached the Siddhanta part. The next part is how we go about examining the truth of a proposition. So what are the four parts? Pratigya, five parts: Pratigya, Hetu, Udharan, Upnayan, or Samanvay. So all of these we'll look up in the next class. These we have seen earlier also. I explained in the as a process of Nyaya, but we look at that in the next class. So there we can end the first chapter, the first part of the first chapter, you can say 1.1. So these will look into the next class. So today we'll close. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओके Thank you everyone. Thank you George for joining.
thank you.
So
Enjoyed that.
enjoyed it. Okay, good, great. So, acha, one more thing is Yashoda not joining.